Marcus Wright stood at the massive window of Capitol Station, his small hands pressed against the transparent metal as he watched colorful ships move through space. At 8 years old, he was the first human child ever invited to the Galactic Council's Youth Summit. His blue eyes reflected the dancing lights of passing vessels, each one carrying young representatives from different alien worlds. Behind him, his parents, Tom and Lisa Wright, smiled proudly. As Earth's diplomatic attaches, they had worked for years to get humanity closer to full council membership. Having their son selected for the Youth Summit was a huge step forward, proof that humans could stand among the stars as equals. "Look, Mom, that ship looks like a whale." Marcus pointed at a massive blue vessel gliding past their window. Lisa squeezed his shoulder gently, sharing his excitement. The station's artificial gravity kept them steady as they watched the space traffic, but nothing could keep Marcus's heart from soaring with wonder. The great hall where the Youth Summit would take place was filled with young aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in special atmosphere bubbles, others walked on multiple legs, and a few even hovered above the ground. Marcus tried not to stare, but everything was so new and amazing. Council Elder Dax, a tall figure with gray skin and elaborate robes, stood at the center of the hall. His species was among the oldest in the galaxy, and he carried himself with the weight of that history. "Welcome, young ones," his voice boomed through the translator systems. "Today, we share our cultures and abilities with each other." One by one, the young aliens demonstrated something unique about their species. A child from a high-gravity world lifted an impossibly heavy object. Another created beautiful patterns of light with natural bioluminescence. When it was Marcus's turn, he walked to the center with a small paper airplane in his hands. "Humans make things," he explained, his voice clear and proud. "We take simple materials and create new things with them." He threw the paper airplane, and it soared gracefully through the air, drawing impressed sounds from the watching aliens. Elder Dax stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Primitive, but charming," he said, reaching for the paper airplane as it glided past. "However, let me show you real mastery of flight." The elder pulled out a small device, and suddenly the paper airplane stopped in midair. It began to spin and dance, controlled by his technology. Marcus watched in awe. But then Elder Dax's demonstration went wrong. The device sparked, and the paper airplane shot forward like a bullet. Time seemed to slow down. Tom Wright screamed his son's name. Lisa reached out helplessly. The paper, now moving at an impossible speed, struck Marcus in the throat. The force of the impact threw him backward, and he fell silently to the floor. Medical teams rushed forward, but their advanced technology was calibrated for their own species, not humans. As Marcus struggled to breathe, his parents begged for help, but moments of confusion and delay proved fatal. In less than 5 minutes, the first human child to attend the Youth Summit was dead. Elder Dax stood motionless, his gray face showing no emotion. "An unfortunate accident," he stated coldly. "But as a council elder, I have diplomatic immunity." The boy's own primitive demonstration contributed to this outcome. Tom Wright cradled his son's body, tears streaming down his face. Lisa stood up, her voice shaking with grief and rage. "You killed him. You took our boy's simple, beautiful creation and turned it into a weapon. And now you hide behind diplomatic immunity." The other council members quickly moved to escort Elder Dax away, leaving the Wrights alone with their devastating loss. As news of the incident spread through the station, humans working there gathered around the family, their shared grief and anger building like a storm. None of the aliens present could understand why the humans were so emotional. None of them noticed the strange signals being transmitted to Earth, or the ancient systems that began to stir deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. None of them knew that the death of one human child would shake the foundations of their galactic civilization. As Marcus's body was prepared for return to Earth, his paper airplane, now stained with red, lay forgotten on the floor of the Great Hall. It was the last innocent human creation that would be seen in council space for quite some time. The news of Marcus Wright's death reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. Within hours, the video of the incident spread across every screen on the planet. People watched in horror as the innocent paper airplane demonstration turned deadly, and Elder Dax's cold response sparked a fury that humanity had never known before. Outside the United Nations building in New York, thousands gathered in silence. They held paper airplanes in their hands, some white, some black, all pointing toward the sky. Similar scenes played out in cities across the globe. Parents hugged their children tighter, and schools held moments of silence for a boy most had never met, but all now mourned. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a facility unknown to the public, Admiral James Stone watched the feeds with his hands clasped behind his back. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his knuckles were white with tension. Around him, ancient monitors that hadn't activated in thousands of years began to glow with a soft blue light. "Sir," a young officer approached with a tablet. "The UN Security Council has convened an emergency session. They're requesting your presence. Virtually, of course." The Admiral nodded, turning to face a large screen where the faces of world leaders appeared one by one. None of them knew exactly why they had been told to contact this particular military officer in this particular facility at this crucial moment. They only knew it was part of a protocol so classified that only 5 people on Earth had known of its existence. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Stone's voice was steady and clear, "what I'm about to tell you has been kept secret for 50,000 years. When that boy died on Capitol Station, he triggered what we call Protocol Omega, a failsafe put in place by our ancestors." The screen behind him lit up with images that made the world leaders gasp. Massive ships, far more advanced than anything in the current galaxy, hidden in plain sight throughout the solar system. Some were buried in moons, others hidden in gas giant storms, and more scattered across the Kuiper Belt. Humanity wasn't always the newcomer to galactic politics. Stone continued, "We were once its guardians. Our ancestors chose isolation to protect younger species, hiding our true power and watching from afar. But they left us this fleet and instructions for when we would need it again. In orbit around Earth, satellites that had been thought to be space junk began to power up. Their surfaces shifted, revealing weapons and shields far beyond current galactic technology. The few alien ships in the solar system suddenly found their systems locked out, held in place by forces they couldn't understand." The Chinese president leaned forward. "You're saying we've had this power all along, and we're only using it now. The death of an innocent child at the hands of those we trusted to be better, and their refusal to accept responsibility. That was the line our ancestors drew," Stone replied. "They believed that only an event that united humanity in both grief and purpose would prove we were ready for this responsibility again." As he spoke, the ice above the Antarctic facility began to crack. A massive shape rose from the depths, water freezing instantly around it in the polar air. It was a command ship, its dark hull gleaming with power that had waited patiently through the ages. Around the world, other hidden facilities began to activate. In the Sahara, sand poured off an ancient landing pad. In the Mariana Trench, lights flickered to life in forgotten chambers. Humanity's hidden legacy was awakening. The UN Secretary-General stood up, her voice firm. "What do you suggest we do, Admiral?" Stone's eyes turned to a small screen showing Marcus Wright's smiling face, a school photo taken just months before his death. "First, we show them who we really are. Then, we remind them why their ancestors once looked to Earth not with contempt, but with respect and gratitude." "And Elder Dax?" someone asked. "Justice comes first," Stone replied. "Our ancestors hid this fleet not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to wait. Now we show the galaxy that humanity remembers how to be both powerful and just." As the Admiral spoke, the massive ship rose fully into the Antarctic sky. Its hull bore an ancient symbol that would soon become very familiar to the galaxy. a simple paper airplane, surrounded by stars. The ancient command ship hung above Earth like a dark star, its presence both comforting and terrifying to the humans below. Admiral Stone stood on its bridge, watching as holographic displays came to life around him, showing the true history of humanity for the first time in 50,000 years. "Play historical record 1," he commanded. The ship's AI responded immediately, filling the bridge with images of Earth's past, not the version taught in schools, but the real story that had been hidden for so long. The images showed Earth as it once was, the center of a vast network of defensive stations and shipyards. Humanity had not evolved merely to hunt on the savannas. They had been guardians of countless developing civilizations, watching over young species as they took their first steps into space. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Maria Ross, her eyes fixed on another screen. "We're detecting signals from throughout the solar system. The Jupiter shipyards are reactivating. The Mars defense grid is coming online. And, sir, you need to see what we found in the moon." The lunar surface shimmered as ancient cloaking technology deactivated, hidden in plain sight for millennia. A massive construction facility stretched across the dark side of the moon. Inside its vast chambers, robotic systems began to stir, preparing to build ships that would make humanity's current space fleet look like wooden canoes compared to battleships. "Why did we hide all this?" Maria asked, her voice filled with wonder. "Why pretend to be less than we were?" Admiral Stone gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a meeting from long ago. The ancient human council sat in a grand chamber, their faces serious as they made the decision that would shape Earth's future. "Our ancestors saw something in the younger races," Stone explained. "Potential. But they also saw how advanced technology given too soon could corrupt. Many of the elder races of the Galactic Council were uplifted too quickly. They gained power before wisdom, and it made them arrogant." The display showed scenes of ancient Earth gradually hiding its technology, sinking its great ships beneath the ice and seas, concealing its achievements behind veils of artificial primitiveness. "They chose to step back," Stone continued, "to let younger races develop naturally, only interfering if absolute catastrophe threatened." A new alert flashed across the bridge screens. Deep space sensors, dormant for millennia, had reactivated. They showed the positions of hidden fleets scattered throughout the galaxy, placed there by the ancestors as a final line of defense. "Look at this," Maria pointed to a star chart. Every major council race. They all had guardian ships watching over them during their early development. Ships they never knew about, protecting them from cosmic disasters, deflecting asteroids, preventing hostile first contact. The bridge crew worked at their stations, absorbing the incredible truth about their heritage. Humanity had not just been another primitive species lucky enough to survive. They had been the shepherds, the protectors, the silent guardians of a galaxy taking its first steps towards civilization. A message flashed on the main screen. A transmission from the Galactic Council. They were demanding an explanation for the sudden appearance of advanced technology in the Sol system. Their tone was still condescending, still certain of their superiority. "They don't understand yet, do they, sir?" Maria asked quietly. Admiral Stone shook his head. "No, they've forgotten their own history. Forgotten how close their ancestors came to destruction before our ships stepped in to save them. Forgotten the gratitude they once felt toward Earth." He touched a control, and a new image appeared, Marcus Wright's paper airplane, now a symbol painted on every reactivated ship and facility. "But they'll remember. Not through force, but through truth. We'll show them the records of their own past, remind them of who we really are." The Admiral's eyes turned to the weapon systems, powerful enough to end the Council's dominance in moments, but that wasn't their purpose. Never had been. "We protected them once," he said softly, "and we will again. But first, they need to understand that true power isn't about immunity from consequences. It's about accepting responsibility." As if in response, another ancient facility activated, this one deep in the asteroid belt. Within its vast database lay the full records of every species' development, every time Earth's hidden ships had intervened to protect them, every moment of humanity's long vigil over the galaxy's children. The truth was awakening, and soon the galaxy would remember why Earth had once been called the cradle of guardians. The Galactic Council's capital station hung in space like a jeweled crown, its defense systems considered the most advanced in known space. Council members had laughed when they detected a single Earth ship emerging from Jupiter's storms. They stopped laughing when their sensors tried to scan it. The Earth vessel, named Guardian, was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in recorded history. Its dark hull seemed to drink in light, and its size rivaled the largest Council battleships. But most disturbing was how their best scanners simply slid off it, as if the ship wasn't quite fully in normal space. Inside the Guardian's bridge, Admiral Stone stood calmly. "Send the message," he ordered. His crew transmitted a simple request across all frequencies. "The people of Earth demand justice for Marcus Wright. Surrender Elder Dax for trial." The Council's response came quickly, dripping with familiar arrogance. "Your primitive species has no authority here. These theatrics with your single ship are beneath our notice. Return to your system, and we may forgive this display of emotionalism." Stone looked at the tactical display, where red dots showed the Council's defense fleet moving to surround his ship. 20 of their most powerful vessels, each capable of destroying a small planet. In other circumstances, it would have been terrifying. "Lieutenant Ross," he said quietly, "demonstrate Protocol 7. Maria's fingers moved across her console. The Guardian's hull began to pulse with soft blue light. Suddenly, every weapon on Capital Station powered down. The mighty defense fleet found their engines shutting off. Even their artificial gravity flickered. Panic erupted on Capital Station. The Council members watched in horror as their most advanced technology was turned off as easily as a child's toys. Their own screens came to life, showing them something impossible. Their ships were being held in place by technology that, according to their records, couldn't exist. "Second message," Stone commanded. "Replay the footage." On every screen across Capital Station, the video of Marcus Wright's death played. But this time, it was accompanied by something else. Historical records showing Elder Dax's species in their early days, when they were still learning to reach for the stars. And there, protecting them from a massive solar flare that would have ended their civilization, was an Earth ship, one that looked exactly like the Guardian. "We were there." Stone's voice echoed through every speaker. "When your sun nearly destroyed you, we were there. When the Great Plague almost wiped out your colonies, we were there. Every time your species faced extinction, humanity's ships saved you. And then we stepped back, letting you believe you had survived on your own." The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Younger species representatives stared at the proof of their own saved histories. Older races frantically searched their ancient records, finding long-hidden references to mysterious saviors. Elder Dax stood from his council seat, his gray face now pale. "These are tricks," he declared, "primitive human deceptions." Admiral Stone's response was to activate the Guardian's main systems. The ship's hull opened like a blooming flower, revealing technology that made the Council's best achievements look like stone tools. From its core, a beam of pure golden light reached out and touched Capital Station. For a moment, every being on the station felt what Marcus had felt, the wonder of a child seeing the stars for the first time, the joy of creating something as simple as a paper airplane, the pure potential that had been snuffed out by arrogance and indifference. "We hid our power not because we were weak," Stone's voice was heavy with emotion, "but because we wanted you all to grow, to develop, to reach the stars in your own way. We were your guardians, your protectors, your silent watchers. And now, because one of you killed an innocent child and hides behind immunity, you will remember who we are." The Guardian's light faded, leaving the station's systems restored but forever changed. Their computers now contained proof of humanity's role in their history. Their weapons remained, but they would never work against Earth ships again. "You have 24 hours, Stone declared. "Deliver Elder Dax to face justice, or witness the full awakening of Earth's fleet. We will not destroy. We will not conquer. But we will have justice." As the Guardian moved away from the station, its hull once again dark and mysterious, the Council faced a truth they had forgotten. Sometimes the most powerful beings in the galaxy are the ones who choose not to show their power at all. The Council chamber had never been so loud. Representatives from 100 worlds argued as more proof of Earth's ancient protection appeared in their records. Young species delegates stood up one by one, their voices filled with awe as they described discoveries of Earth ships saving their ancestors. 3 times, shouted the representative from Proxima B, his scaled skin shimmering with emotion. 3 times Earth's ships drove away hostile invaders from our early colonies. We thought they were just legends. In the corner of the chamber, Elder Dax watched with growing fear. His guards had been quietly replaced by younger species security forces. Even his own people were backing away from him, reading ancient records of how Earth had saved their civilization from a deadly plague. Outside the station's windows, more Earth ships appeared. They rose from hidden bases on moons and asteroids, emerged from gas giant storms, and dropped their ancient cloaking fields. Each one bore the symbol of a paper airplane, a reminder of why they had awakened. Admiral Stone's voice echoed through the chamber again. "We have activated the historical archives in your oldest buildings. Look at your own histories. Remember who protected you when you were young." The Council's first speaker, an ancient being named Vor, raised his hands for silence. "If what you say is true, why reveal yourselves now? Why not stay hidden?" The main screen lit up with Marcus Wright's face. "Because," Stone replied, "when an innocent child was killed, you showed us that some of you have forgotten the responsibility that comes with power. You've forgotten what it means to protect those who are younger, weaker, or different." Elder Dax suddenly bolted for the private shuttle base. He made it 3 steps before running into an invisible wall. A small Earth drone cloaked in front of him, projecting the barrier. "The time for running is over." Stone's voice was calm but firm. "Face justice, Elder Dax. Show that the wisdom we once protected has not been completely lost." More revelations poured in from across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, hidden Earth facilities activated, showing records of humanity's ancient guardianship. Archaeological sites yielded proof that had been staring them in the face, the remains of Earth ships that had sacrificed themselves to save developing civilizations. "I moved to support Earth's demand for justice," the Proxima B representative declared. Others quickly joined him, mostly younger species who had just learned how much they owed to humanity's silent protection. Some of the older races remained hostile, their pride wounded by the revelation that they hadn't achieved greatness entirely on their own. They threatened war, until their own military leaders stepped forward with even more shocking news. "Our weapons won't fire on Earth ships," a Council admiral admitted. "The safety protocols are built into the very core of our technology, put there 50,000 years ago. We never even noticed." Elder Dax fell to his knees as his last supporters abandoned him. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "It was just one human child. Why does this matter so much?" The chamber went silent as a new figure appeared on the main screen. Lisa Wright, Marcus's mother. Her face was tired but determined. "It matters because every child matters. That's what humanity learned as guardians. Every life, every species, every chance at growth and development is precious. You killed my son, then hid behind laws meant to protect diplomacy. You showed that you still don't understand the true meaning of advancement." More Earth ships appeared every hour. Hidden bases on lonely moons activated. Secret shipyards began repairing vessels that had waited through the ages. But they didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They simply watched, as they had always done. "The Council is divided," First Speaker Vor announced. "But the evidence is clear. Earth protected us all, asked nothing in return, and stepped back to let us grow. They showed true wisdom. The kind we claim to have but failed to demonstrate when one of our own killed an innocent child. He turned to Elder Dax. You will face justice, not just for Marcus Wright, but for betraying everything the Council claimed to stand for. It's time we learned from humanity what real civilization means. As guards led Elder Dax away, a small paper airplane drifted down from somewhere above, landing softly on the Council's central table. No one saw who had thrown it, but everyone understood its meaning. Humanity was back, and things would never be the same. The galaxy changed forever on what later became known as Revelation Day. As Earth's hidden fleets continued to emerge across thousands of star systems, the true scope of humanity's ancient power became impossible to ignore. Each appearance brought new proof of humanity's role as the galaxy's silent guardians. On the bridge of the Guardian, Admiral Stone watched the tactical display light up with countless green dots, each one a reactivated Earth facility or ship. Status report, he commanded. Lieutenant Ross checked her screens. The Orion fleet is fully awake, sir. The Carina shipyards are operational. The Sagittarius defense network is online. She paused, her eyes widening. Sir, we're detecting facilities we didn't even know about. There's a whole rescue fleet hidden in the Horsehead Nebula. News spread across Council space like wildfire. On thousands of worlds, people took to the streets, not in fear, but in celebration. The younger species especially celebrated as they discovered more evidence of how Earth had protected their ancestors. Look, a young alien child pointed at a museum display on her homeworld. The ancient artifact, long thought to be a religious symbol, transformed before their eyes. Its surface shifted, revealing itself as part of an Earth rescue beacon that had saved their first colony ship from destruction. But not everyone celebrated. In the Council's private chambers, a group of elder races plotted desperately. We cannot accept this humiliation, one declared. We must strike now, before they fully awaken. They launched their attack in secret, sending their most powerful warships against Earth's Sol system. The response showed just how futile their pride had become. Earth's defense grid activated. Rings of energy rippled out from the solar system's edge. Every attacking ship simply stopped, frozen in space as if time itself had ceased to flow around them. Their weapons didn't fail. They simply ceased to exist, transformed back into raw materials by technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Admiral Stone's voice echoed through every ship and station in Council space. We could have destroyed them. We chose not to. That is the difference between power and wisdom. The Guardian moved through space toward Capital Station, now accompanied by a fleet of ships that made the Council's greatest armadas look like children's toys. Yet they moved with a grace that spoke of protection rather than threat. Inside the Council chamber, the first speaker addressed the gathered representatives. We face a choice, he said, not between submission and resistance. That choice was made meaningless by the gap in our capabilities. No, we face a choice between learning and stagnation. On the main screen, images played of Earth's 50,000 years of watchful guardianship. Times they had prevented wars, cured diseases, diverted natural disasters, all without taking credit or demanding gratitude. This was never about revenge. Tom Wright spoke from Earth's new embassy on Capital Station. He stood near a memorial to his son, where aliens of all species had been leaving paper airplanes in tribute. This was about responsibility, about understanding that power means nothing without compassion. The corrupt council members who had supported Elder Dax found their luxury estates transforming around them. Hidden Earth monitoring systems, dormant for millennia, revealed every secret deal, every abuse of power, every time they had put their pride above justice. Your civilization will not be destroyed, Admiral Stone assured the gathered representatives, but it will change. The time of hiding behind diplomatic immunity while committing crimes is over. The time of dismissing younger species as primitive is finished. Lieutenant Ross approached with a new report. Sir, we found something else. The ancient records. They show that humanity wasn't the first guardian species. We were chosen, taught, prepared for this role by someone even older. Stone nodded slowly. Perhaps that's the next lesson we all need to learn. Even the teachers were once students. Even the guardians were once protected. As Earth's ships took up positions throughout Council space, they created something new, not an empire, but a network of protection and guidance. The paper airplane symbol came to mean hope to thousands of worlds, a reminder that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect. In the Wright family's quarter on Capitol Station, Lisa held a small paper airplane, the last one Marcus had ever made. She released it into the station's artificial breeze, watching it soar toward the stars that her son had loved so much. His death had awakened humanity's ancient power, but his life had taught them how to use it wisely. 1 year after Revelation Day, Capitol Station looked very different. The once imposing council chamber had been transformed into an open forum where representatives from all species, old and young, could speak as equals. At its center stood a simple memorial, a paper airplane in crystal, forever frozen in flight. Elder Dax stood before this new assembly, no longer wearing his elaborate robes. The trial had lasted 3 months, with evidence presented from 50,000 years of human records. Now he faced not just justice for one child's death, but accountability for a system that had promoted arrogance over wisdom. The verdict has been reached, announced the new Chief Justice, a member of one of the younger species. Elder Dax, you are sentenced not to punishment, but to service. You will spend the rest of your life working with the children of developing worlds, learning what we should have known all along, that every life has value, regardless of its origin. Admiral Stone watched from the observation deck, Lieutenant Ross at his side. The Guardian floated outside the station's windows, now just one ship among many as Earth's fleet patrolled openly through the galaxy. Its paper airplane symbol had become a beacon of hope, copied by thousands of species as a reminder of the day everything changed. The archaeological teams made another discovery, Ross reported. An ancient message, left by those who taught humanity to be guardians. Want to hear it? Stone nodded, and Ross played the recording. A voice from unimaginable ages past spoke. To those who watch the Watchers, you were chosen because you learned to balance power with compassion, strength with wisdom. When humanity faced its own trials, they chose to protect rather than destroy. Now they guard others as we once guarded them. The circle continues. In the newly established Earth Embassy, Tom and Lisa Wright sat in a garden designed to honor their son's memory. Children from 100 different species came here to learn, to play, and to make paper airplanes that flew in all sorts of gravity conditions. Each one learned the story of Marcus Wright, the boy whose death had awakened ancient guardians. Look, Mrs. Wright. A young alien child floated up to Lisa, holding a paper airplane made with 6 wings. I designed it specially for my planet's wind patterns. Lisa smiled, remembering how Marcus had loved to experiment with different designs. The pain would never fully fade, but seeing how his story had changed the galaxy brought some comfort. Every child who came here left understanding something profound about the responsibility that came with knowledge. On Earth, the Antarctic facility had become a center of learning. Species from across the galaxy came to study not just technology, but wisdom. They learned how humanity had chosen to hide its power, how it had watched and protected without seeking praise or power. The real test, Admiral Stone told a group of visiting dignitaries, isn't what you can build or destroy. It's knowing when not to use your power at all. The changes spread across council space like ripples in a pond. The older races, humbled by the revelation of their own protected past, began to change. They remembered their own early days, when they had looked to the stars with wonder rather than arrogance. Many joined Earth in its guardian role, learning to use their power to protect rather than dominate. In the reformed council chamber, a new law was passed unanimously. No being, regardless of status or species, shall be immune from responsibility for their actions. Elder Dax, watching from his new position as a teacher's assistant on a frontier world, finally understood what humanity had known all along. One evening, as the station's day cycle dimmed to night, Tom Wright found something on his desk, a paper airplane made by an alien child. On it was written in careful letters, "Thank you for sharing Marcus with us. His story taught us to be better." Tom took the plane to the Memorial Hall, where he released it into the air. It flew in a perfect arc, joining thousands of others that floated in the zero-gravity space. Each one represented a lesson learned, a life touched, a step toward a better galaxy. Admiral Stone stood on the Guardian's bridge one last time before retiring. "Lieutenant Ross, send this message to all Earth ships. The watch continues, but now we stand together." Marcus Wright's legacy lives on in every child we protect, every species we guide, and every star we guard. As the message went out, a new ship class was launched from the lunar shipyards. These vessels were smaller, designed not for war, but for exploration and aid. Their names all began with Wright, and their mission was simple: to ensure that no child of any species would ever again die because of pride or power. The galaxy had changed, and at its heart, a paper airplane still flew, carrying the dreams of a boy who had taught even the Guardians what it truly meant to protect.